Welcome to the Film Illogical Society, brought to you by Redacted Media and 65 Media. In today's episode, we count down the 100 greatest comedies according to the BBC. And now, here are your hosts, Kris Schulz and Chad Halvorsen.
All right, and welcome to the Film Illogical Society, the countdown show, where we are counting down the top 100 films of all time in the comedy genre according to the BBC. We really need to work on a shorter title, but I am one of your hosts. I am Kris Schulz. With me, as always, is Chad Halvorsen. Hello, Chad. How are you?
Good. I am Chad. Thanks for having me.
You know what? It's my pleasure to have you. Wait, does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. I think it makes sense. We're going to go with it anyway.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. Okay, so I am excited. So we are hitting the home stretch here.
Number 40.
This is number 40.
40.
And number 40, and this is our very first film from, I think I can say, one of both of our favorites. Directors and writers and actors when he has to.
Yeah.
This is our first film from Mel Brooks. And it also happens to be the first film he directed.
Which I didn't know.
1967's The Producers, which has been remade, has had a very successful run on Broadway recently. But when this film came out in 67, it was considered a very funny film, but I don't think this is one of the films that he's remembered most for.
No, I'll get to it in a little bit, but I feel like he's more, for The Producers, he's probably known more for the musical version, I think.
I think so, yeah. I think with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick were the two big stars.
Yeah, I mean, and they killed it for years. That show was running with those two. Yeah,
that ran on Broadway for forever. And that, and what helped is that inspired him to move other of his classic films onto Broadway.
It's all about making that green. Got to cash in on that idea.
Yep.
On a different way.
His Spaceballs, which is
The Quest for More Money.
The Quest for More Money, yeah. All right, so this film it's set in New York. This, by the way, is also Gene Wilder's first film.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
He was Broadway before this, Broadway and theater guy. This was his first big film.
Huh. I just assumed Gene Wilder was always something.
No, he did TV work. He did, bit parts, but this is his first big starring role. And I mean, this was great because it brought together these two geniuses, right? I mean, I think Gene Wilder is a fantastic comedic actor. Mm. And you pair him with Mel Brooks, who is a fantastic writer and director of comedy. And I think you're going to have a lot of success, which I think we'll get to, especially when we get into Blazing Saddles and some of the other films from Mel Brooks on this list. Mm. So had you seen this version of the Producers before?
No. The only thing I saw from this was a clip of Springtime for Hitler, because I love that song. It's a great song. But I didn't really watch this until it was released. The theatrical release of the musical came out, was it 2007?
I think so, like around there. Yep.
Around there. Which was a surprise because I just assumed that this movie was always a musical.
Oh.
And that the Broadway musical was like a revival of the old show, because I knew this was a movie.
Yeah.
So like it was my surprise that there were no numbers in this except for Springtime for Hitler, which the Broadway version has, like Ula has a song, like everybody has a song based. It's a musical. Like it's so it was interesting to go back to the source material and be like, okay, I'd say about 90% of this is the same, except for like all the added musical numbers they put in.
All the music, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I had always been aware of this film, and I always thought, like, I should really see that. I love Mel Brooks. I'm glad at the time that I didn't, because I was expecting. I know back then I would be expecting more of like the Mel Brooks, not even Blazing Saddles, but some of his stuff that he did in the 80s. Spaceballs and Robin Hood Men in Tights and like that type of era.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that is the type of comedy I was kind of expecting more from him, or even History of the World Part 1. This was a very different Mel Brooks film. This is more like his high anxiety or some of this higher concept films that he worked on. Mm-hmm. So for me, because I as a when I was really like watching Mel Brooks all the time, like High Anxiety wasn't as big of a film for me. I didn't like it as much. I didn't like a couple of his other films. I think he had one that was Riches to Rags film, where he was a rich guy and he was poor. Yeah, and those just didn't do it as much for me. So I am glad I waited and saw this now when I could appreciate it more.
Yeah. It was weird. Like I said, for me, I was expecting all these musical numbers. So to see it broken down like this was definitely different. I wasn't expecting it. But like that being said, Gene Wilder was adorable in this.
Oh,
like he was so
yeah.
adorable. And I like, you can see, especially with both his performance and Mostel's performance, watching the 2005, it was 2005 I looked up.
Yep.
The 2005 release, like you can see Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane taking little bits and pieces from this original movie and adding it to their performance, which I thought was really cool because, I mean, I guess in hindsight, it kind of sucks because I thought like Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick came up with some of those characteristics.
Brilliant.
Yeah, they're brilliant. I mean, they are, but really they didn't rip off the characters, but they're playing an homage to these characters from the film. And I think it's really cool. Some of the jokes are kind of dated, like all old movies that we watch.
And I think Mel Brooks kind of he has a timelessness, but he also has a very timely sense of humor. Like he will poke pop culture and other things, which when that happens, then the jokes kind of lose their steam. Plus the appropriateness of jokes. I think Mel Brooks especially is guilty of some of that, although he's always had, like, Richard Pryor wrote Blazing Saddles with him and things like that. So, but yeah, you're writing a film about two producers trying to create a stage play about Hitler.
And the whole first half of the movie is them setting up like, hey, we have to make the worst thing ever. Because what they're going to do, the scheme is, if they oversell shares on a flop, nobody's going to look at their books because it'll be a crappy show and nobody's going to want their money back. So they go out and they try to, like, what's the most, and this was 1967. So, not too many years later after the end of World War II.
No, 22 years.
Yeah. So
after the end of World War II. So, yeah.
Fresh in everyone's mind, definitely. And to have the balls to make a show about Hitler. But then what ends up, sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead. You finish what you're going to talk about.
The flip side is they get the worst screenplay. They get the worst director. And they hire like this Jim Morrison-esque lead to play Hitler. Yeah. And everything looks like, oh my God, this is going to be the worst thing ever. We're going to become millionaires and we're going to retire and blah, blah, blah. And the flip side is all these bad decisions end up making a really funny show and audiences end up loving it, which now Max and Bloom are, they've committed fraud and they're going to go to jail.
Yeah, it's a very interesting film. The concept is very like it was just born out of a mistake. Gene Wilder plays this naive bookkeeper who is checking the books of Max, who's kind of a end of his line producer, and finds that he overbuilt his last play by $2,000 because it was a flop. So he got $2,000 out of it, and then that hatches the whole scheme.
Spent it on a Turkish bath.
Yep. A well-deserved Turkish bath.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I think I've seen a film with Zero
congratulations.
Mostel.
Sorry.
Zero Mostel.
Here, just take that line over again. I stepped on you.
No, it's fine. This is the first time I think I've seen a film where I remember like Zero Mostel being in it.
I don't think off the top of my head, I don't think I've seen anything with him in it. But he was great. He was great.
Well, and he was a big name, apparently, because Gene Wilder gives a lot of credit to Zero for kind of pulling him aside and putting him under his wing, giving him good advice, and finding ways to make him a bigger star, like upping him, and Gene Wilder, like I said, gave him a lot of credit for that.
What do you know? What's behind him being billed as Zero, or
that's his name? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know, but did he turn into Prince for like one movie?
I don't know. Again, I think he is like the big name, so like a big comedic genius or someone that's known. It looked like he had a TV show or TV movie named after him. He had just a number of movies, and TV shows from like the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
But again, nothing that rings. The only thing that kind of like sticks out is a 1951 movie that he was in called Mr. Belvedere Rings the Bell. And that only sticks out because Mr. Belvedere's in this film as well. I find that hilarious. This is the first time I've seen Christopher Hewitt, who played Mr. Belvedere. You know Mr. Belvedere, right?
Oh yeah.
This is the second time I've seen him in something.
Oh, he was Roger Dubois.
Yeah, he was the director in Drag.
Oh, holy crap. I guess I forgot Christopher Hewitt is Mr. Belvedere, but holy crap.
Yeah. My wife, when we're watching this, she's like looking at me like I don't tell her anything. Like I'm researching, I'm doing stuff, and she just like, is that Mr. Belvedere? Like, yes, it is. Yeah, so he plays, Christopher Hewitt plays the director of the play, Roger Debris, and he's the worst director, and so there's certain elements. I mean, he's in drag when they meet him, and he's kind of like giving his vision for the play and all that, which I think in 1967 was probably a bigger joke. Although yeah. I think in Britain, though, I mean, British humor often had their male actors in drag. It's pretty much a staple in British and Canadian comedy, but not so much in American comedy. So part of it could be that. Although when they're in drag, they're not men in drag. They're playing women, right?
Yeah.
Like I think Kids of the Hall and Monty Python and all them, like they often dressed up, but they were playing women, not men. So,
and I'll have to watch like the 2006 version because I feel like the same joke's still in there. Because 2006 we weren't as progressive as we were now. At least try to be. I mean, like So a couple things that annoyed me because it wasn't like the musical that I knew.
Yeah.
Like Ula. The bit was funny.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she was too ogled. Like I did like the joke where, like, okay, Ula, go to work. And, she turns the record on and she starts dancing. That's funny because it's used later on. But the whole scene of them just like ogling her for the sake of just, sexualizing her kind of sucked. But I liked, so they kind of do that in the newer version. But Ula ends up being her own character. She's got her own song, and she ends up being in the show. There's a lot of differences that they kind of, I could see Mel Brooks having to rewrite some things just to make sure this works as a musical. There's no third act bombing of the theater in the musical. Leo just ends up taking all the money and running away with Ula, and then he comes back, and then they do the whole trial thing, and then they go to jail. But I don't know. I feel like some of those jokes are more forgivable in the newer version, only because the characters are more fleshed out.
Yeah, well, and yeah, the in the third act they try to blow up the theater in this film because that would be a literal bomb.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, where they get they could save themselves, and that doesn't go off as planned, obviously, and yeah, I mean, obviously, and that makes sense. Like when you're on a musical, you're limited to the stage. You can set the stage to be different places and all that, but that's not going to be a main part of it. So that makes sense that they kind of changed that.
Kenneth Mars as Franz Liebken was awesome. Again, mirroring the musical. The film version has Will Ferrell as Franz Liebken, and it works. Like 2006, that was probably still peak Will Ferrell in the world, so I get why he was casted. And
I think he's capable of playing good. Like he has the ability to do good acting. He does.
I don't hate him.
It doesn't make him money. So yeah, I mean, I think that is a good casting. It's like he's like Adam Sandler. They're capable of being good actors. They just choose not to, for the most part. They want to have fun, and I have no problem with that. But anyway. Go ahead.
No, Kenneth Mars, I thought, did a really good job. And I also really like Dick Shawn as basically he played Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison, yeah. Just like a weird, creepy Jim Morrison.
Lorenzo Saint Dubois, or LSD. Yeah. Go ahead.
The scene with all the Hitlers being auditioned, that wasn't in the musical, but it was great.
Well, you have like 50 people that are cast, and on their resume they get to put the part that they was auditioning Hitler.
Well, and like
that's who they were.
That scene opens up with, like you said, 50 people on stage, and they're all yelling and throwing up Heil Hitler signs. Yep. And it's any other, and only Mel Brooks can get away with this shit. He's done it his entire career.
Well, I think the majority of that cast there, and this cast as well, are Jewish.
Oh yeah,
so it'd be very hard to put a German actor in that role. They're either Jewish or British.
Mm-hmm. Freaking Franz Liebken has like a straight up picture of Hitler on a corner wall next to all his Hummels and his beer steins. Like,
and he also, he's wearing the old German war helmet with, and his,
it's got bird shit on it.
Yeah, that was his. Kenneth Mars said, "Hey, we should have bird shit on here." Just to kind of show. So I really want to get into some of the actors. I think getting into Mel Brooks will be something we can do later. But
Sure.
because this broke so many actors, I really want to get into them. But first, let's hear from our sponsor.
Sponsor time.
Hey, this is TC,
And this is Jim from the Studio Demands It podcast,
where every episode we take a demand from a hypothetical studio
which could be you.
and challenge ourselves to conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film based on the stipulations
Or the demands.
we are given. We talk about movies all the time. Particularly, we complain about the choices made in the films we've seen.
We're nerds like that.
And, of course, like any good nerd does, we automatically assume that we could do better.
Even with the demands and restrictions that clearly must have been put on by a production.
So head on over to studiodemandsit.com and listen to our previous library of episodes. Our library of previous episodes. Our precious library, Jim. Our library of precious episodes.
You're a pirate, Smeagol.
Okay, so head on over to studiodemandsit.com to listen to our library of episodes.
And submit your demand for a future episode too.
So go do that.
Okay, bye.
Okay, end of ad.
Hey there, podcast listeners. I am David,
And I'm Kate.
and together we host a podcast that you might be interested in if you like The Legend of Zelda.
There are lots of awesome podcasts out there and a lot of awesome Zelda podcasts out there.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. In fact, that is the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We do a couple top 10 lists here and there.
We have some deep dive episodes, and we even pepper in a couple quiz episodes.
We talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. If it has to do with The Legend of Zelda, we talk about it.
You can check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a lot of the other podcast services that are out there.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye.
Okay, so like I said before, this was Gene Wilder's first film that he was in. And, he came from TV. He came from theater. What's funny, okay, so a couple things. So first of all, he was in a play. He had been in a play with Anne Bancroft, Mel's wife. I was about to say Mel Gibson. That would totally take it the wrong way. Mel Brooks' wife. And she kind of, they met and they talked, and Mel Brooks told him, Gene, I have the perfect role for you. Are you interested? He kind of gave him what it was, and Gene Wilder said, yes, I'm interested. Didn't hear from him for 3 years. He's on a play. Gene Wilder's performing on a play, a different play at that point on Broadway or whatever. Mel Brooks comes into his locker room and says, hey, we start filming next week. And that's it. That's the story. Gene Wilder, he told, there was an interview that he did with Turner Classic Movies before this film was played. He told, during a reading, he said, hey, I have a dentist appointment I have to go to. So he was excused. What he was actually doing, he was going to the unemployment office to collect a check. And he was too embarrassed to say that at the time, that he really needed this. So,
I mean,
yeah. I love Gene Wilder, by the way.
Yeah, I was, like all of us, super sad when he died.
We're both from the Milwaukee area. He is
Yep.
originally from Milwaukee as well, so I think there's definite draw there. I think when we were children, we were both traumatized by Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and just like, oh my gosh! But then later on, seeing him in a few
Blazing
other
Saddles,
and See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and
yeah, all the stuff he did with
Young Frankenstein. With Richard Pryor.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. He and Richard Pryor were just a great pairing. But yeah, I mean, like when I'm thinking about this film, like I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as some of the films that we looked at, and
yeah, and I don't know. I feel weird about that because we're always like, oh, all these movies are great, and this is the first time in a long time where I'm like, yeah, it's good,
yeah,
but it's not. I don't think it belongs this. It should be this so low on the list.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a little bit of like the critics and others, just kind of the ones that voted on this list, if they're like looking at this film, and sometimes it's like those behind the scenes or making of type of films that do well with those audiences because they get the inside jokes, right? And the standard audience doesn't. But I have to say, like, if because of this film we were able to see Gene Wilder and everything that he did, it makes it worth it being on this list.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because like I agree with you, he was so sweet and charming in this film, and just his little quirks that he had. And I don't know, did I have not seen the Matthew Broderick version, but did he have like all the same little things, like with the blanket,
the blankie, and the nervousness, and Broderick does it really well. But I feel like in this, Gene just did it better, and maybe because he was a literal starving artist, and he felt like he had to give 110%. Maybe that, I don't know, but it's. There again, and in the Broderick performance, he's mirroring a bit of what Wilder did. Yeah. So everything that's good about what Broderick did is only because of what Gene Wilder set up.
Yeah, and to credit Matthew Broderick, like how there's so many actors that would try to just like go a different direction or take it a little bit differently, but I think you really have to look at that performance of Gene Wilder and Zero, and they were both done so well that I
would definitely check out.
Way.
Yeah, I would definitely check out the 2006 version. I don't know. Some people didn't like it. I liked it, but then again, I'm a sucker for musicals, and. Again, now that I've seen full circle, like the genesis of this project and what it turned into, 30 years later, it's cool. It's a lot of the same things are in the re-release. There's just more scenes, and it's longer because they have more musical numbers, and they have to, when Leo complains that, he's an accountant, I'm just going to go back to my boring job or whatever. They actually show that boring job after Max kind of gives him the deal, like, hey, let's do it. And he's like, no, I gotta go to work. And there's a whole musical number there. So,
okay. But
then again, this movie, I don't know, this movie's good. It
is good, but it is good. And there's a couple. So this is Mel Brooks' first time directing a film. And I definitely saw a lot of Mel Brooks isms in the film. Like I think Mel Brooks has the extreme far away shot. Like I'm thinking of where Leo agrees to do it. They're sitting in the park. They're sitting at a table in the park, or around a fountain. And you're very far away, where maybe 1/20th of the screen is just the characters. Everything else is this huge scene and landscape and everything. And they're talking, and it's like they're right next to you, right? You can hear them perfectly fine. But you just have this extreme far away perspective, so that it sets up the shot of Gene Wilder making the decision of let's do this, and running around the fountain all excited. And, there's a number, I think that shot in particular, that stuck out to me because it's like, who would do this? Normally you want to catch reactions. You have no, you have no facial reaction. You're too far away to see any little movement or any little thing, and all the audio is going to be ADR. It's going to be post recorded because you're not that close to them. You're not going to be able to pick up that audio. I just think that's an interesting shot. I don't know. I mean, if you've edited many more films than I have, like where does that shot make sense in storytelling?
I mean, normally, especially for a comedy, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. But I think that's an attest to like Mel Brooks in general and what his vision always is. Like he made the space movie, he made the Western movie. Like he knows how to play with genres. Mm-hmm. Kind of like a modern day Edgar Wright, mm-hmm. So to speak. But yeah, I don't know. There's a couple ways. There's two ways of doing comedy. Shoot everything flat, 3 different angles, get your jokes and move on. Or you can actually invest time and give a shit. Or you can invest time and give a crap about what's on your screen. And I think those types of moments are an attest to like, how smart he really is. And
yeah.
I mean, before this, he was a writer for so many different TV shows. And, it could have been one of those things where like he was behind the scenes, not behind the camera and not directing, but, getting ideas and figuring things out. And when he finally got the chance, he just tried to knock it out of the park.
Yeah. It stuck out to me just because it felt so off to have that shot, that particular shot, because it's I believe the only time he uses that shot. And again, to me, that type of shot is used when you want to show a large crowd. Like I could see that in epic films, like Lord of the Rings type of films, where you want to show thousands upon thousands, but it's just showing 2 little people sitting at a table in a park, and you basically are seeing the park around them.
It's basically showing them in their own little world.
Yeah,
like they think this thing's gonna work. They're gonna make a lot of money, and they're gonna retire, and they're gonna move on. So the outside world doesn't matter. They know what they're gonna do.
Yeah. And I, it's something where when I saw it, I knew it was Mel Brooks, but I cannot tell you. I know that shot is used in other of his films, and I'm glad we're going to see him in the next 39 films. So it'll be interesting to kind of go back to that, to be like, okay, there's that shot. There's that shot again.
Same thing with Mel Brooks wasn't in this movie, nor do I think he's in the 2005 version, if I remember correctly, but his voice is.
Yes.
Both movies at the same time and the same line.
Same line.
Don't be stupid, be a smarty, come and join the Nazi party. In Springtime for Hitler.
Yes. Yeah, this is one of the few films where I'm racking my brain. I can't think of another film that he hasn't been in. Like
that he directed?
That he directed. Because obviously there's a lot of other films he hasn't been in. Like millions of them. But of those that he directed, I believe this is the only. He directed like 11 or 12 films. So he doesn't have like a 30, I think he's more of a writer. I think that's what he likes to think of himself as. More of a writer, comedic writer, than an actor or director. But yeah, I mean, any other film come to mind for you?
That he hasn't been in?
Yeah,
that he directed? No. Like, he was in History of the World. He's in Blazing Saddles. He's in Young Frankenstein. He's in... he
was in Men in Tights.
Men in Tights, thank you. Yep. I don't know. Maybe that first time around, he didn't want to seem like too much of a, like maybe he thought that'd be too much being like a first time director and putting yourself in, or maybe he didn't get comfortable doing that until later.
So he was granted, he was a name. So he became famous for partnering with Carl Reiner, another fantastically funny guy. They had like an audio recording, a bit called The 2,000-Year-Old Man. He also worked on the Sid Caesar show. And Sid Caesar shows up in some of his movies. Sid Caesar was a huge comedian of the 50s and 60s. He was, I believe he was the track coach or the athletic coach on, it was just in my mind, Grease. The movie version of the movie Grease. Yeah,
Sid Caesar freaking hate that movie. So, don't make me watch that movie. I'll just assume that you're right.
Yeah, do it. Good. So he was given, this is his, the studio took a huge chance on him because first time director, he's coming mostly from TV and bit comedy, and they gave him full creative control of this film. It helped that he took 1/3 of what the normal fee would be. So that, others, the producers had to raise money outside of it. And they also had Peter Sellers, who Mel Brooks wanted to play Leo originally. Peter Sellers of Pink Panther fame. He became a huge fan of this film as well. And he helped promote it and push it for the studio to release it. Because I think the studio was a little hesitant to release a film where the biggest joke is Springtime for Hitler.
It's a very good joke, though.
It's a very good joke, but 1967, like you said, that's 22 years off from the film. It'd be interesting.
It is a testament to his writing that he could make a joke about Hitler, multiple jokes about, and not just like at Hitler's expense. I mean, they are the way that LSD plays. Hitler is making fun of him, but
he did say, so Mel Brooks has stated more than once that making the world laugh at Hitler is his lifetime goal.
Oh yeah, I've heard that quote too. Like,
and the Springtime for Hitler was always his go-to joke as well before he made this film. Whenever anyone would ask him, "Hey, what's the next project?" and he'd talk about, "Oh, I'm writing a musical called Springtime for Hitler. It'll be great."
Well,
and he finally made it, kind of.
I mean, it makes sense. He was a Marine in World War II, so
yeah.
Although I think he fought in the Pacific, so don't know why he has all the animosity towards Hitler. I mean, he fought in the Pacific, but Mel, it's going to be a sad day when Mel finally leaves this mortal plane. Yeah. Like when I started getting into films, there were a few directors that I got into right away, and he was one of them. And just his sharp wit, his ability to make fun of himself, to make fun of others, paved the way for a lot of things that we have now. Like, okay, maybe in 1967, it was a potential faux pas to make fun of Hitler in a movie, but It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is on their 15th season, and they've done way worse than just, bring up Hitler. So I appreciate comedy. Comedy is supposed to tiptoe the line, sometimes step over it. He's the master, the masterclass master of making you feel uncomfortable, but also make you laugh at the same time.
Yeah, and you did say it before. He is the king of making genre parodies. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't parody movies, he parodies genres. Much like Edgar Wright does, much like musically like Flight of the Conchords does, where, you know, unlike a lot of the films that came out like Epic Film and Not Another Teenage Movie and all those that are parodying, basically they're taking a scene from a film and redoing it, but having a person fall down in the middle of their entrance or whatever. You know, you could write a film that both respects and makes fun of genres. So this kind of does that for musicals in a way, but also like kind of the behind the scenes theater world where the producers are, you know, they're trying to make money and they're not necessarily looking for what could be the biggest hit, because there's probably a fine line of what makes a big, you know, what is the next Hamilton? What is the next Phantom? What is the next Les Mis?
Yeah.
That's going to make some money. But those are not like the you know, those are 10% of the musicals, not even 5% of the musicals that get made, written every year.
Yep.
So it's making fun of that, of like scheming the system and you know, and again, I think that's why The Producers is so well loved probably by people in the industry, because they know, you know, they know people like this, or they know those ideas, those schemes, and it just kind of goes with that.
Real quick, Mel Brooks didn't serve in the Pacific. He served in the European theater. And he also participated in the Battle of the Bulge, which is crazy. He was in the engineering battalion, basically diffusing landmines all the way to freaking Berlin. But now I know why he doesn't like Hitler so much. There's all those landmines that they made him freaking disarm.
So yeah, so this film was, you know, it had some controversy. Obviously, we talked about it already, but it was banned in Germany.
Well,
because Germany forbade any likeness,
iconography,
anything to do with Hitler after World War II. They said they didn't put up statues of Hitler. They didn't do anything like that.
What, after the war, they didn't just get the mothers of Nazis and they didn't put up a bunch of
it's surprising,
Nazi statues
right?
all over Germany?
It's surprising, right?
It's weird.
So it wasn't until a Jewish film festival was held that this film was finally allowed to be played in Germany.
When was that?
It was like 1977.
Okay, so it wasn't like, 2008 or anything.
No. It did come sooner rather, but I think, Mel Brooks was obviously a bigger name in 1977. So that probably helped. And also, it's like, okay, we can kind of lessen this up a little bit. So, yeah, it's like I said, it was a good film. I enjoyed it, but it's not as, it's not one of my favorite films of Mel Brooks's library.
I look forward to rewatching the films that I know I'm gonna laugh my butt off.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a while since I've seen many of the films that are on this list from him.
I probably watched those movies in college over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's college, high school, just watching Blazing Saddles, and when we get there, we'll have that talk.
This movie, though, again, and not to beat a dead horse, but or a dead fear, but I think this being the genesis, and then later on the musical coming out, I feel like the musical rounds it out and makes it a better experience. And the fact that, it's a movie about eventually a musical, I assumed it was going to be a musical.
Well, I think another thing that another Mel Brooksism is always setting up a film that at the time he probably does not intend to make.
Mhm.
But once people start like, hey, why don't we make Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money? And he, okay, I have an idea.
It's been 40 years.
So just a couple other notes I have. So Peter Sellers was the Mel Brooks's desired original Leo for the role. And then while it was talked about to Gene Wilder and went 3 years before, Dustin Hoffman at one point, he lived in the same building as Mel Brooks did in the Greenwich Village, and they knew each other. And Dustin Hoffman was not a big name at all at the time, and he was gonna play Leo, and this was gonna be his first breakout role. But then he left to make a film with Anne Bancroft.
I was gonna say he ended up banging his wife in another film.
Yeah,
so.
in The Graduate. So that is what brought Gene Wilder in to replace him because Gene Wilder knew Anne Bancroft as well, really well, and yeah. So I am so glad that Dustin Hoffman was not in that role.
No. I agree.
I think he's capable of doing it, but and even though he was like in his I think 30s when he did The Graduate, he looks very young.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Gene Wilder, he's kind of got a timeless look to him. He kind of always looks that same age.
Yeah. He's got like blondish, grayish hair.
Yeah. It's like, looks a little bit older. So, it's good. Yeah, like I said, it's good. It's not my favorite one, but there's some good history. And again, this is the film that gave Mel Brooks his start directing, gave Gene Wilder his start in acting in films. Those two factors right there absolutely puts this film as a very important film to watch.
Well, how many times does like a first time director nail it like a home run their first outing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it does happen, and there are examples of that, but that doesn't necessarily make you in the long run a better director, writer, blah, 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 blah. So this movie wasn't terrible, and it was better than good.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I would call it a home run. I mean, if this is your first outing as a director, well, and you're given 100% creative control of your very, very first film. Yeah.
I'd say it's a home run once another country bans your movie from playing in their country. Like I would love to have that moniker on anything I made. Like,
all the films we made have been banned in North Korea.
Well, true, but so is anything fun.
That's
banned in North Korea.
Yeah. So this it's a tight film. It's an hour and a half. It's a nice story. It's focused on their run, and it goes from conception of the idea to them being in prison. So it shows them being bad.
If you watch anything in this movie, at least watch the beginning of the show, Springtime for Hitler, all the way through the end when they figure out that they messed up and they're going to go to jail. The song is amazing. And then the way the character LSD plays Hitler, it's this like cool cat, like laid back, quit stressing me, Ava, quit stressing me,
the standard, like, and this is 1967. So this is like the hippies were probably not made fun of, but this is like a hippie-ish type guy, right? Like LSD. So it was cutting edge comedy.
And the song "Springtime for Hitler" is great in general. Even if you just listen to the lyrics, don't even watch the movie. Like it's a good song in the context of what they're trying to do in the movie. Yeah, I guess you shouldn't listen to that song as is without the context that they're trying to make a terrible play.
Yeah, I think you should watch the whole film. I think you should watch the whole film. It is a good film. It still works. Everything about it, even if you don't remember Mr. Belvedere, I thought Christopher Hewitt was very fun in it as well. I thought it was Harvey Korman at first when I saw him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, those guys look and act very similarly. And I always wondered, like, did Mel Brooks mean to cast Christopher Hewitt in Blazing Saddles? And yeah, we'll get there. We'll talk a lot about Blazing Saddles, but yeah, I think we both thought this film was fine. It was good.
Yeah.
Top 100 comedy of all time?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Yeah. But we didn't hate it. It'll be on this list at the end. We're not going to kick it off. Any final thoughts from you about The Producers from 1967?
Don't try and produce the worst thing ever expecting to get a ton of money. Feel like right away lying is not the best way to go through life.
Yeah, don't purposefully try to bomb what you want to do.
Or maybe
try hard. Try hard.
Maybe do a film about or a musical about, I don't know, Saddam Hussein.
A musical about Saddam Hussein?
Yeah, like what if it's called Springtime for Saddam?
The follow-up?
Yeah, or at least, the hip new rendition.
I don't think maybe you can workshop that.
No more musicals about war criminals.
Yeah. Maybe
fine.
we should avoid that. Especially maybe if you went like Idi Amin or something like that, I'd be for it. But
Idi Amin.
But you went a different direction. So I think you should workshop that a little bit.
All right, fine.
All right. So our next film, Chad, I'm very excited. So I don't feel like we. The energy is a little bit low on this one, but I think that's the film. It's a good film. We want to really like it, but it's really hard. But the next film I'm really looking forward to. It's our first Marx Brothers film.
Ooh.
A Night at the Opera. There's a couple Marx Brothers films on this list. And while I can't say I'm a Marx Brothers expert, I will say everything I've seen with them, I thoroughly enjoyed. Groucho Marx is one of the best characters ever in Hollywood. Like, ever. Like, actors like Ryan Reynolds can point directly to Groucho Marx as inspiration of who he is as like a character. Because he kind of plays a character now whenever it's Ryan Reynolds. And I feel he can point to Groucho Marx, and you can call me a liar next time we talk about this if you want, but I'm sticking to it.
I've never. I mean, I know Groucho, Harpo,
Chico.
I don't remember the third. Chico.
Yep.
I'm not familiar, so I'm excited to dive into the Marx Brothers.
It's from we're going back to 1935. Back in time. Yeah. I'm excited. I will. I know I'll be bringing more energy next time because I'm just happy. I think there's going to be. I think Duck Soup is on the list because that's one of their biggest one, and maybe the Coconuts. But yeah, we're breaking in to the 30s now. We are number 39.
Woof.
Yep.
Feels like we started this 18 years ago.
I know. And then I get the reminders. It was like 4 years ago we started this.
4 years. That's a long ass time.
It's a long list, 100 films, but
Yeah.
you know what? I am very happy.
Oh yeah,
Like, this has been a very good experience. It's because all of the films that I've never seen before, like this one, that all right, now I've seen this film. I've almost completed the Mel Brooks library.
to me, watching a new film, whether it's going to be good or bad, isn't a bad thing. Like, there's so much out there, and there's so many stories that people want to tell, whether they're good or not. You know, even the bad ones deserve a chance. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad we're not doing the 100 worst comedy list.
Or like, I was thinking an in-depth dive into A Birth of a Nation or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I will watch eventually. I don't want to, but for historical context, like, considering it was the first major hit, I know I'm going on a tangent here.
Yeah.
But that was the first, like, big blockbuster movie, was a racist ass movie.
Well,
So
yeah, I mean, they did techniques and all that really pushed, but I'd rather look at other films, contemporary films like Metropolis, which we watched in our other show. I'd rather watch those type of films that still may not be 100% like okay, but they didn't have the same intent.
persecuting black people. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So, all right. So that's
On
it
that
for
note.
this week. On that note, let's move on. Chad, anything else you want to talk about?
Pretty sure Lord loves a working man.
And don't trust Whitey.
And see a doctor and get rid of it.
That's right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Filmological Society. If you'd like to listen to similar podcasts, please check out 65 Media on Stitcher, iTunes, and Facebook. Or check out Redacted Media on Facebook and YouTube.